So before we start, I have a lot of people I have to thank for making this event possible. First, the great architect that permeates through all life. Without it, nothing would be. And I also have to thank my father for traveling from Haiti to come see me do this presentation. My father is also he's a civil engineer, has his master's in hydraulics, and he has been teaching at the university in Haiti for over 30 years. So thank you for coming. Also, we have Charity, Stephanie, the other people from the SDA staff and FIU Farmers Market, also Plant-Based Society, which have been very key in promoting and making this event possible for you guys. So we're gonna start. Are you guys ready? So detoxification is a very loose word when you really, when you hear people talking about it, doing a 7-day detox, 7-day juice cleanse. But what is it really doing to the body? That's what we're gonna learn today. And also the subtitle is Healing the Emotional and Physical Body. And you notice I put emotional because as you're detoxifying the body and releasing toxins from the tissues, there's also emotional releases that are to come. You might find yourself crying one day or get anger that's been stored up via tension. Because when we suppress emotions, the body responds by tensing. And by tensing, that's how it stores, metaphysically, that's how it stores the emotions. So we're going to delve into that today. So first, some words of wisdom. This is from the Bible, Genesis 1:29. And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. To you they shall be for meat." Does that say anything to anyone? We also have the story of Noah that chronicles man's diet throughout the ages. Noah was a plant-based eater, mostly probably fruitarian, frugivore, and it was only after the flood that God allowed for man to start eating animal flesh and their byproducts. Only after the flood. Noah lived to be 900 years old. His offsprings, 500. The next generation, 300. The next generation, 200. Now some people can't even get past 70 or 65. This is a quote by Thomas Edison. "The healer of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients or clients," because the new healer, in my opinion, will not have patience because he won't make them wait. So the healer of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his clients, patients, in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. We're gonna go more into this as we get into the lecture. We're gonna talk about how we really don't have a healthcare system, because our so-called healthcare system doesn't really focus on building health. So it's more of a disease care system, and they're really good at treating symptoms, and that's not what we're about. This is from Benjamin Franklin. "I saw a few die of hunger, of eating 100,000. So what is that quote really saying? We don't really have a hunger problem. We have more of a malnutrition problem. So now we're going to get into the first slide. And this is going to be the first few slides is mostly going to be about the emotions. So the organs and how they store our emotions. In this, you see the chart. You see the heart here, the liver, kidneys, and bladder. This is the lungs and the colon, the stomach, pancreas, and spleen. And this is from Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine, in my opinion, is very, very advanced at diagnosing or looking at the body in a holistic way, because they've been documenting their healing modalities for over 5,000 years. This is 5,000 years of knowing what worked and what didn't work. So in my opinion, systems like Ayurveda, TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, they deserve a lot of credit for even inspiring a lot of the early doctors in what we now call medicine. So here we see in the liver, this is where we store our anger, mainly the anger. And this is mostly anger that we get from family problems, like daddy issues, mommy issues. If you have a problem with your brother, your cousin, your grandfather, this is all stored in your liver, any anger that you have towards anyone. The kidney deals with the fear, because the kidney is governed by the water element, and the water, we know that the depths of the water is something that humanity has been afraid of for many years. We don't know even now, most scientists don't know what is really beneath the ocean. So the kidney, it makes sense that the kidney is governs our ability to deal with fear. And when people have kidney issues, those are symptoms that usually occur: loss of sexual energy, loss of life force, nervous system disorder. Also, the adrenals tend to get damaged from the kidneys being overworked or not working at their highest potential. Here is the lungs. The lungs is ruled by the metal. The metal could also be the air element, because the lung is what deals with the air in the body. The lungs, we see, stores sadness, depression, and symptoms associated with that are breathing problems like asthma, COPD, decreased oxygen in the blood. So you might see some people have varicose veins. Also brain anemia, the body's inability to send oxygen in blood to the brain, which could lead to dementia, Alzheimer's, and every sorts of problem. Now we have the stomach. The stomach is where we have our worry and mistrust. In my opinion, not so much anxiety. Anxiety is more related to fear in the kidneys and the adrenals. So we're going to keep that to worry and mistrust. The stomach is also the most powerful organ or muscle in the body. This is like a high-speed blender that we have in the body to help us process foods, kill unwanted pathogens from entering the body, prevent them from entering the body. So when we have problems in the stomach, pancreas, spleen, the spleen is the main organ that cleans the blood. It's part of the lymphatic system. And we're going to be talking about the lymphatic system because it's a very misunderstood system. A lot of even lymphologists, lymph massage, people that do lymph massage drainage, they don't really understand the lymphatic system and how important it is in detoxification. And lastly, we have the heart. The heart, when it's not working properly, and it's also linked with the small intestines, that's where we store hate, cruelty, and impatience. Now we're going to go to next slide. So what are negative emotions after all? So think about pain. If we didn't have pain to let us know what hurts, or the foods that we ate that caused us some pain in the stomach, if we didn't have that mechanism in the body, how would we know what harms us and what doesn't? So this is exactly what negative emotions are. They are what pain is to the body, negative emotions are to the soul. So without the negative emotions, our soul wouldn't be able to communicate with us about which path, what situation feels good. This is mostly our intuition. So when you're having all these negative emotions go through you, it doesn't mean that something is wrong with you necessarily, because negative emotions themselves are not bad. It's just how you deal with them. So if you don't know how to properly express these emotions, we're going to go into that in the next slide. So emotions are energies in motion, and we see that in the word motion. E stands for energy and motion. But they have to be expressed through movement and vocalization. So dancing, singing, poetry, all of that are great ways to express your emotions. That's why a lot of artists, sometimes people are drawn to them because they're able to express those suppressed emotions so freely. So we talked about that previously, how suppressing the emotions requires us to tense. For example, when you look at a baby breathe, their belly is expanding, and they're very relaxed, and they don't care about what people think about them. They don't care about anything. They're being fed. They're just abundant, and how they breathe reflects that. So what do we do when we're scared? And this is how we condition children into fear as well. So what is the body's reaction to fear? We tense our abdominal region, and that in turn is going to compress and press on the kidneys, the adrenals, and this is going to create problems in these regions. The adrenals is what controls our anxiety, our blood sugar, sugar metabolism, our energy levels. This is mainly the adrenals. And the kidneys control blood pressure to a certain extent, and the kidneys are one of the main eliminating organs of the body, especially when it comes to cellular waste. And we're going to talk about that because most physicians, conventionally trained physicians, don't know about that. So, we see a lot of adults being generally tense. As we get older, we get more tense. And this is what happens to the children as they grow up. They get more tense, more serious. We have to get more serious, more responsible. So we already talked about that. So, how do we transmute the negative emotions? So, here we have the heart, and there's sounds. In meditations, there are sounds associated with every organ that governs these emotions. So With the heart, we have the sound how, and hate gets transformed into love, joy, and happiness. For the liver, the anger becomes kindness and forgiveness. Because once we forgive, there's no more need to keep the anger bottled inside of us. The kidneys, fear, transform into calmness of mind. So you're able to analyze situations and not let your adrenaline or your fight and flight response guide your interaction with whatever situation that you're dealing with. The lungs, we go from sadness to courage. And in the stomach, we get fairness, openness, and trust, coming from mistrust. So we have it here, emotional alchemy. In the kidneys, the fear becomes the calmness of mind. Liver, anger becomes kindness and forgiveness. In the heart, hate becomes love and joy. In the stomach, spleen, and pancreas, mistrust becomes trust. In the lungs and colon, sadness and depression becomes courage. So scientists have been researching lately, and we've come with this term, the heart brain. They discovered about 40,000 neurons that can sense, feel, learn, and remember, that are located in your heart. So the heart is not just pumping blood, just like they say. It's actually not even pumping blood. It's through electromagnetic pulse, that's what's driving the blood to flow. So it's not something that's pumping as we've been taught. And this is changing a lot of the studies in medicine in general and how we view healing. It's also called the intrinsic cardiac nervous system. Here I wrote Heart Transplant Memories. There's a book, I forgot the name, where the author talks about somebody having a heart transplant, and right after the surgery, they get all these memories and emotions from the person that they got the transplant from. So the heart is not just beating, it's recording, it's recording events, it's sensing, it's feeling, it's learning, it has the ability to remember, and it's just amazing that we're able to discover this. But I feel like our ancestors already knew this. It's just that science is always late in catching up with what the ancient societies already knew. Now we have, so this term, the heart brain, is why, this is how we can explain empaths, because the heart is how we receive, this is what connects us to each other. Our electromagnetic fields, that's what gets us connected to each other. And it's also called the feeling brain. So we're going to go into the next slide, which is the gut brain. This is another nervous system found in the walls of the colon and small intestine and stomach, the whole GI tract. And it's heavily, the functioning of this gut brain is heavily dependent on your gut microbiome that modern Western medicine is very good at suppressing. That's why they give you the vaccine. That's why everything is treated with antibiotics, because they're suppressing this. And people are not able to have this. Or they're able to negate it even when they get the signal. Because you do get bloated and gassy and irritated when you eat certain foods, but you have the antacids and all of these medicines that you can use to forget about it. And that's not what we're about. This is your instinct. This is what can predict when you get a gut feeling about something, about a situation, this is what you're experiencing. You're experiencing the gut brain. So how do we balance emotions? Radiation is a very big hindrance to emotional well-being, especially prolonged exposure. So keeping your phone on you all day, we could say that's a very bad habit to have, because the electromagnetic radiation that you're getting is not only cutting the cords between you and the rest of the world, it's also doing other physiological, it has other physiological impacts in the body. So what are some solutions? Ecotherapy. Ecotherapy is a word I came across, and I really love it because it involves using the natural environment as your therapy. So going to the beach, going to the forest, going to the springs when you have time. Get away from Miami. Get away from the big cities. I myself, I'm just coming from Ocala. I was in the springs up there, and it was amazing. Being grateful. This is something that a lot of people don't have. We wake up with everything. Food, stuff that even people that don't have food, they eventually get food at a certain point. So we have to be grateful for everything. The fact that we're able to breathe, the fact that we have a loving and supporting family to how do you say that? I already used the word supporting, so I don't want to say support. So you guys get what I'm saying. Avoiding certain foods. This is very important. Stimulants. What do I mean by stimulants? Stimulants, they bring no nutrition to the body whatsoever. This is stuff like coffee, green or black tea, alcohol. What else is a stimulant? You guys can help me. What stimulates?
Chocolate.
Cacao, yes. Also, yeah, chocolate is a really good point because a lot of people substitute most stimulants for chocolate, and they're doing the same thing.
What about cigarettes?
Cigarettes, nicotine. Yeah, nicotine is a very, it has opioids. Tobacco has opioids in it that can, give you that stimulating effect. Any recreational drug, especially the ones that you have to smoke, unfortunately, a lot of us, we've used those stimulants. Processed foods, those have very little nutrition and a lot of toxins. Those, at any point where you are right now, you really have to question or take another look at your food intake and see how much processed foods you're ingesting. And you'll be surprised. Just by reading the labels, you see how processed, even the food that you think is not processed, you see how processed it is. And this can be easily, you can easily detect this if you're reading the label and you can't pronounce the words. Excess animal protein and fat. This is very controversial, but we know now science links high animal protein diets to colon cancer, and the countries where they consume the most amount of dairy, this is a study that's been done, the countries that consume the highest amount of dairy are where they have the most bone fractures. So is milk really giving you that calcium, or is it stealing it from you? So we can focus on increasing the natural, raw, living foods. Why do we want to include raw, living foods? Because this is what our body was designed to eat. This is what the creator or creation, whatever name you want to give to this supreme consciousness that gave birth to all of this, this is what it intended for us to be consuming. The human body is not designed to get nutrition in the form of isolates. We get our nutrition in the form of raw, living foods. Also, herbal supplements. And this is not the same as your isolates like a B12 pill or a vitamin C pill. Those are isolates that the body often treats as foreign chemistry because, again, the body is designed to receive its nutrition from whole foods. So why do we use herbal supplements instead of the isolates? The herbs, I'm going to have a chapter for this, but quickly, the herbs have never been hybridized, or most of them have been there's very little hybridization. So you're still getting that age-old nutrition. Some herbs go way back from the beginning of, when plants started to form on land. So you're getting that amount of nutrition that's been recorded. You're getting the electromagnetic energy. You're getting all of that from the herbs. You're also getting a lot of minerals and a lot of nutrients that you don't get anywhere else, like tannins, some alkaloids, not caffeine. What else? Saponins. There's a lot in herbs. In fruits as well, there's fruit supplements like acai. I know a lot of you are familiar with acai berry. They make it in powder form or liquid form. So all of these are good options. So the golden key to emotional well-being is the breath. This is what controls everything. This is what gave birth to everything, the breath. Anytime you're in a situation where you're not feeling comfortable, you can try this. Rhythmic breathing. Rhythmic breathing involves following a certain rhythm with the breath. So 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out, or 3 breaths in, 3 breaths out. This is how you balance your brain's hemispheres by breathing. You're also syncing yourself to the earth's biorhythm. The earth is a living, breathing organism as well. It's breathing, it's eliminating waste, it's eating, it's doing all of that. It has blood. It has all of that. So just like our body has cells, the earth has us. And every time we're not connected to the earth via breathing on its biorhythm, we can experience all sorts of misfortunes. Breathing also means more oxygen and blood flow to vital organs like the lungs, especially the lower lobes. A lot of people don't get enough air to the lower lobes because we're not breathing to the full potential. When we're breathing, we're supposed to have belly expansion. Your belly is supposed to expand. Your diaphragm is supposed to push down so that you can get that air into the lower lobes. And this is very crucial. Most people are taught to breathe from the chest, but we're actually supposed to breathe from the belly, just like the babies. And we wonder why the babies are so happy. You can also experience better digestion just by breathing. If you practice some form of rhythmic breathing before you have a meal, this will stimulate blood flow to your colon, pancreas, all these main digestive organs, so that you can have a smooth processing of your food. Also better intimacy with your partner and all that good stuff. Now, we're done with the segment. This is the last slide of the emotional series. So how body weight is a very misleading indicator to health. Just because you're overweight or just because you're too skinny, it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. Usually people think, and this is more for overweight, because most people think that if you're lean and skinny, that you're healthier than overweight people. And that is, a lot of times that is not the case. A lot of people that are skinny, slim, are very malabsorbed. They're not absorbing their nutrients. That's why no matter how much they eat, they can never gain weight or, sorry. But if you are overweight, there's something going on because the body uses fat to store toxins. So if you're putting more fat, that means you're ingesting too many toxins, and that's the way that the body, because the body can either deal with it two ways, and I put this here, how the body copes with toxins. It's either by the production of uric acid, which is going to burn these toxins, and that's what allows most people to stay slim. Uric acid also it also destroys minerals, vitamins, and all the essential nutrients that we need for proper development. Or the other way is producing more mucus and fat to store those toxins and keeping them in place, keeping them away from our vital organs, because you don't want, we're going to get into pH. You don't want something that has a pH of 2 near your kidneys or near your heart. You definitely don't want that. And the body is smart. It has its own way of coping with this. A lot of people get scared of cholesterol plaquing, but this is also another mechanism of the body to try to isolate the toxins from burning your arteries. Because if cholesterol didn't plaque, if calcium wasn't taken from your teeth, your hair, your bones, it would burn. Your arteries would burn all the time. So cholesterol plaquing is just preventing that from happening. And it's a red signal that something is wrong that people usually close their eyes on. And the more it happens, the more calcium comes in, it becomes calcified, and you have a very little narrow passage for blood until it becomes closed. And that's when the body said it had too much. But it already gave you the signals. So my message to you guys is don't focus on body weight, since it's a very bad indicator of health and wellness. Focus on building your health instead. So now we're going to get into Hering's Law of Cure. This is a major law in homeopathy and naturopathy. This is one of the first laws that we look at, and this is what tells us how the body heals. So how does the body heal? This is also applicable for all life on earth, especially mammals. So healing progresses from top down, so from the head to the feet. Healing also progresses from within to the out, so from the internal to the extremities and to the surface of the skin. It also means that it also happens from the deepest levels within us, from our emotional bodies, our mental bodies, into the external, the extremities and the surface of the skin. Healing progresses in reverse order in which the symptoms have appeared or have been suppressed. What does that mean? When you go into a healing crisis, which we're going to talk about, let's say you're doing a detox, but the week before you had a cold or you had a fever, and this week you're doing a detox. But last week you suppressed that fever. You didn't let it do its job, because a fever is here as a friend to help dissolve those uric acid crystals that we talked about before. It's there to help them dissolve so that they can get out of the head area. Or a cold, why are you spitting out that stuff? It's because it's not supposed to be in there in the first place. So this is what modern medicine has taught us, that every time they stop the healing process from happening. And this is what we're going to debunk today. So you had that cold last week that you suppressed. You're doing a detox this week. Guess what's going to come to you first? That cold. Because that's the last one you suppress. Let's say it was arthritis. What's going to happen? The pain is going to come back. So Hering's Law of Cure is a very good way of the body healing itself, because I myself, I like to call myself a health coach, a healer, but those are just marketing terms. The true healer is the body itself. The true healer is the body, nature, God, creation. This is what heals us. The body was already designed to heal itself from anything. We don't have to, we don't even, if we really know what we're doing, we don't even have to use food, herbs, anything. Those are just here to help us facilitate the process. And we can use them because they're here for us at the same time. But the body ultimately does the job by itself. Ever had a dog and they get sick and you see them stop eating? What are they doing? They're healing themselves. Abstaining from food is one of the main ways to, especially solid food, or whatever worse food that you're eating. If you're eating processed food, that could be a first step as into something that you can eliminate to your road to getting better. So what is dis-ease? And you notice I don't use the word disease. Why is that? Why do you think I don't use the word disease? Anybody?
They don't exist.
That's one reason. That's one very valid reason. So, what do you say?
We didn't hear what she said.
She said because they don't exist.
Right answer.
That's a very accurate answer. Because we're going to go into this here. Dis-ease is simply medical doctors putting Latin terms, very complicated words on symptoms or groups of symptoms without giving us any explanation about the cause. So you have arthritis. Arth meaning joint, itis meaning inflammation. But what caused your arthritis? And this is where the modern healthcare system fails us, because they only have one approach for everyone. But there could be many, many causes to 3 people having arthritis. 3 people could have different reasons for developing that. But there's only one shotgun approach to everyone. So disease, suffering is here to wake us up to the fact that we can do better with our lives. So that's, even in Buddhism, that's what they teach. They don't really teach to avoid suffering, even though it can be avoided. But this is what suffering does. It wakes us up. Disease is the absence of health, just as darkness is the absence of light. It's not the other way around. So if the room is dark, do we fight it to try to make it, to get more light? What do? We turn on the lights. And this is what modern medicine doesn't understand. They're fighting these illusions that they themselves created. And this is a big marketing scheme as well. You create the name, and then you create pharmaceutical drugs for them. And in the system that we live in, it's about money. So if people are going to get sick, if people are going to get diseased or not at ease with their body, why not profit from that? So we don't fight darkness, we just bring in more light. The same way we don't fight against or treat disease, we build better health and remove obstructions to the flow of energy. This is a very important part, because my mentor taught me that if there's no obstruction to the flow of energy in the body, nobody knows how long we can live. Noah lived 900 years, and he himself, he asked the Creator to seize it because it was too much. So we don't really know how long. This term longevity, we have no idea about it. So back to what we were talking about earlier, the healthcare versus disease care system. This is what we're missing. This is what we have. Because this is what they're treating. They're treating people's diseases. They're not building their health. A doctor is not even required to take a nutrition class. It's not that nutritionists are not brainwashed as well by this same system that gave birth to modern medicine. But even 7 hours, I think 7 hours is all they need in nutrition. And how do you build health without having certain, like a minimal knowledge about nutrition? Now, this is where it gets fun. This is where it gets simple. There are only two sides to chemistry, as my mentor taught me. There's only acid and alkaline, and neutral in the middle. That is a pH of 7. I'm sure you guys, or I'm not going to make assumptions. You guys familiar with chemistry? You guys took chemistry classes. You know about pH and alkalinity and acidity, okay? So what side of chemistry would pain be on? Okay. And what side would vibrant health be on? There's because alkaline, you know Drano, that stuff you use to flush your toilet, that's alkaline. Would you drink that? So there's all that to say, the body's always looking to be in a homeostasis. It's always to try to be in the middle. So in my opinion, where we experience our most balanced state is in the neutral, which is in between the acid and alkaline. But we bring in alkaline foods to fight the acids that are created from the environmental toxins that we breathe in or that we're eating through food. Fruits are very alkaline. Fruits, vegetables, dairy. Which side is dairy on? But actually, cow's milk, whole cow's milk, is alkaline. But we lose the lactase, the ability to digest lactose after the age of between 2 and 3, we lose it. So it becomes acidic even if we had whole organic milk from cow or even from our mother. After a while, even the baby, you feed the baby, you put it on breast milk for too long, it's going to start developing mucus. His nose is going to start to run. It's going to get pressure in the head, going to start coughing out phlegm, and This is what we have to know. We have to know, because there's only the law of karma, the law of cause and effect, law of polar opposites. In this realm that we're living in, it's only two. We're living in a binary or dualistic realm. It's a dualistic reality. You can either be on one side or the other. Or we can be in the middle and be healthy. But it's always these two sides fighting against each other. So what does the law of karma, law of cause and effect, law of polar opposite have to do with this ease? So cause and effect. If you have an effect that you don't like, what do? You change the cause. You find the cause, and then you change it. So what modern medicine has been doing is negating this and fighting that, which is illusion. You can't do that. You can't fight the effect if you don't know the cause. Law of polar opposite, there's good and bad, black and white, masculine, feminine, acid, alkaline. So all these laws, these are the real laws. The law that we have in the Constitution, they're only sub-laws of these higher laws. This is what rules the universe. This is what gets us in tune with the Creator Himself. So here we have the spectrum of acid, alkaline, and mucus-forming foods. Mucus-forming foods are those foods when we ingest them, automatically the body gets a response, and we start producing mucoid matter. This is the stuff that we sneeze out after a slice of pizza, or this is what runs from the nose of a baby when you gave him that soy-based formula, or his first bottle of cow's milk. So we have some items here on the acidic side. We have carbonated water, soda. Coca-Cola has a pH of 2.5. That's really sad, and I see a lot of people drinking that. The thing with that is, that's where it gets more intricate. The kidneys, which filters out acids, doesn't eliminate anything that's below a pH of 5. So imagine how much work the kidneys have to do to bring that to pH. And when we're talking about pH, it's 10 times. The more the next one up, 3, is 10 times less hot than 4. 5 is 10 times hotter than 4. 6 is 100 times hotter than 4. So this is exponential. On the neutral, we have most tap water. I don't know why they put it there. Maybe because they have to remineralize it. But a lot of time what happens is tap water has all these inorganic minerals that the body treats as foreign chemistry. Stuff like fluoride that is very well known to harm our pineal gland. This is one of the main things that cause our pineal gland to calcify. So you might, I don't know who did that chart. Apples, almonds, avocados, limes. You see they put limes and lemons on the alkaline side, but they are a acidic fruit. Why is that?
When your body digests them, it like converts to alkaline.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. So when you're ingesting lime, what we're not really focused on the pH from before. We're interested in the ash. What do I mean by that? The ash, whether something has an alkaline or acidic ash, depends on what it leaves behind when the body has processed it. So you might have something that's very alkaline, like green tea. Green tea is alkaline, but when the body consumes it, the ash that it leaves behind, that means the minerals, are very acidic because it's a stimulant. Green tea, and this is not tea. Green tea refers to a specific plant. Green or black tea is a different brews. The green tea is more mild. The black tea has been fermented for longer periods of time, but it's a tree that they call tea. So it's not the tea I'm drinking, so don't judge me. So the great lymphatic system. This is where a lot of people fail because they don't understand. If you don't understand this, you'll never be able to have longevity because the lymphatic system is the body's sewer system. This is what deals with the this is what deals with everything that the blood cannot take care of. So the blood, it feeds the cells. It's more like, it operates like the kitchen. The lymph is what cleans the waste from the cells. So the lymphatic system takes care of cellular waste. And we see here, the blood feeds the cell. The cell is a living, breathing, and eliminating organism, just like us. Just like on the earth, we're walking, we're eating, we're drinking, we're pooping, we're doing all of that. The cell is doing the same thing. So if we didn't have the lymphatic system to take care of that, we would just be one bag of. So when the cell has finished eliminating, this is, you see Miss Kidney here? She's beautiful. She is the one, she is the gateway, and we're going to go into this in the next slide. So what is the role of the lymphatic system? The lymphatic system is like the police in the prison of the body for toxins, cellular waste, byproducts of metabolism, especially uric acid. Uric acid is what is a byproduct of digestion of mainly proteins, especially animal proteins. Not so much vegetable protein. So the body has 30 trillion cells and 100 trillion bacteria. Each cell has a consciousness. They eat and eliminate. Removing cellular and bacterial waste is one of the main roles of the lymphatic system. Even though the colon has a small role in removing cellular waste, but it can only be done via touch, like dry skin brushing or lymphatic drainage. But the colon doesn't do that by itself. This is why after a lymphatic drainage session, you usually see mucus in the stools. So it also deals with the creation of white blood cells, antibodies. It's a battlefield where the immune system, beneficial bacteria, macrophages, which are in the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes are very important. They're like little septic tanks. That's where, if you understand the septic tank at your house and how bacteria is very important to maintaining, to keep it from spilling, because if you don't have bacteria in there, when you flush, it comes right back out. So bacteria is what decomposes. The bacteria, in my opinion, in a spiritual sense, they're the ones that are here to assure that new atoms are available to other things that are going to be created. So there's a new baby that's going to be born in 10 minutes. We need atoms for that baby. And that's what the bacteria do. They decompose and they allow for those atoms to be freely available. Also, this is a new study. The brain has its own lymphatic system called the glymphatic system. This is activated in our sleep. So sleep is a very important way to clean your brain of the waste, because before that, doctors didn't believe that the brain had a lymphatic system because they don't understand the lymphatic system in the first place in cells. Because just like we said, if cells eat and eliminate, then what is the brain? The brain is a bunch of cells. So doesn't the brain produce waste and all that stuff? And what deals with that? The lymphatic system from the brain is a little different in the way that it's cleaned by your spinal fluid. The fluid that's in your spine, that's what goes in your brain at night and cleans everything that has been going throughout the day, because the brain uses about 30% of your daily energy. So it's working and pooping. So understanding the 4 steps the body uses to process food. Most of you guys that are in nutrition majors here or nutrition minors, dietetics, you already know about this. Digestion, the first one, that happens in the mouth. Food enters the mouth. The stomach is going to churn it. It's going to mix with the HCl in your stomach to help it break down proteins, complex starch, kill some harmful bacteria, not all, because we need bacteria. Based on what we learn about the lymphatic system, we need bacteria. If we don't have bacteria, we're just a big bag of you-know-what. Walking, you-know-what. Next step is also the pancreas. The pancreas is the main digestive organ. And this is where digestion becomes alkaline. We often think about the stomach producing hydrochloric acid, but what does the pancreas produce? Sodium bicarbonate, which is alkaline, and enzymes. Liver, gallbladder, the bile is, I think it has a pH of 7.4 to 8. So after the stomach, the whole rest of the digestive process is alkalinity. Next, we have absorption, and this is where a lot of people fail. Most people, they get through this stage, and if you don't get past this one, you won't go down. So why do so many people have absorption problems? One guess? I know. Our intake of what we like to call foreign proteins and just foods that we were not meant to eat, they damage the structure of our intestinal tract. They create what we call mucoid plaque, and we see that come out of people. We see buckets of it come out of people when they do a detox. This is it's like a black tar substance that's in the wall that coats the wall of your intestine. And to a certain extent, it gets to the colon. And this coats the villi of the intestine. And it inhibits this from doing its job, because this is where absorption happens, in the small intestine. Next, we have utilization. What is utilization? This is the body using whatever nutrition that it got from the food that we ingested. This is mainly done by the glands, especially the adrenal glands, with the corticosteroids, which require a lot of minerals. The parathyroid is what deals with our calcium utilization. So if you're not doing this, you're definitely not doing this. So this is also where there's a myth of deficiencies, because how can you really be deficient if you're not even absorbing your nutrition? Last step is elimination. And just like we said, if the first ones, you can't do them, you won't be able to do the following ones. And this is a big problem. We see a lot of constipation, a lot of spastic colons, a lot of diverticula, a lot of balloon colons. Some people have the transverse colon prolapse, and this is giving them like a, you might see some slim, very skinny people, and they have a round belly. The other day they cut out a Chinese man colon, and they had about 50 pounds of uneliminated fecal matter in it. And most of us, and the sad truth is, most of us have about 5 to 10 pounds of uneliminated fecal matter inside of us, because we've never cleansed, we've never thought about cleansing the body. Our grandparents probably knew. That's why they did seasonal cleanses with castor oil or olive oil to kind of have a laxative effect. But even that wasn't enough. So elimination is taken care of by the colon, kidneys. A lot of people through high protein diets. High protein diets is the best route to go into your kidneys, not filtering out uric acid, cellular waste from bacteria, and the energy and function of the cells. The skin is also the largest eliminating organ of the body. This is anything that the kidney cannot deal with, it sends to the skin. Anything that the lungs cannot deal with, it sends to the skin. The liver, gallbladder to a certain extent, the colon as well. Anything that it cannot deal with, it sends it to the skin, because it's the biggest, largest organ of elimination in the body. So 4 lessons from a baby. So when a baby is born, what is the first thing that it does? It breathes. Crying is essential too. You gotta let them out. You gotta let those emotions out. But it breathes first. First thing, it breathes. Then well, it requires air to cry. So we're gonna skip cry. Yes, it needs to eat. It needs some breastfeeding. Next thing. It has to sleep first. The first day, it eats, sleeps, and then it poops. It poops, it sleeps. The next day, it wakes up, it poops. And those are the 4 laws of the body. We have to breathe. That's the first thing. That's why there's a great teacher of mine, Arnold Ehret, he's not alive, but he's written many books about fasting, and he has a great book called The Mucusless Diet, which I would highly recommend. The Mucusless Diet Healing System. Mucusless. So Arnold Ehret talks about how the body is really an air-powered engine more than it being powered by food, because the first thing that we do, the thing that is the most crucial is breathing. We can go days without food. We've done that in our coaching practice and at the clinic that I'm involved with. We've done that. We've put people on fruit juice only. People have dry fasted, meaning not ingested any fruits, food, or liquids for 36 hours, and they still live. But can you go 5 minutes without breathing? So this is the most important thing. This is what powers the body, the breath. In the creation story, that's how God puts life into everything, is through the breath. Next slide. Colon cleansing. This is very important. This was a big hype in the early 1900s. Everybody was about colon cleansing, but now they stopped. I don't know why. So colon cleansing is very important, and usually it's one of the first ways that people get into health is through colon cleansing. A lot of people, they get into eating colon cleansing diets. They get into the probiotic foods, the enemas, the colonics, and that eventually leads them to more on the road. But here we have probiotic foods versus prebiotic foods. Probiotics are fermented foods that already have bacteria or their byproducts in it. So either lactobacillus or lactic acid. But the body, we talked about absorption. Most people are not absorbing. So when we're ingesting probiotics, we're getting very little. Prebiotic foods, on the other hand, is what feeds the probiotics, meaning the beneficial bacteria in our gut. They're waiting for us to feed them the prebiotics for them to multiply. And also, one thing we have to know about beneficial bacteria, their actions in the body are responsible for so much in our metabolism. For example, if you have a beneficial bacteria problem, it makes sense that you're not having peristalsis, because peristalsis is a byproduct of those bacterias being, the flora, your gut flora being healthy. So people need to focus more on eating prebiotic foods. So what are prebiotic foods? Those are the raw, living foods. It's not your sauerkraut. It's not your kimchi. It's not your kombucha. It's your fruits, vegetables, nuts, soaked. They have to be soaked. And we're going to go into that later. And this is what feeds your beneficial bacteria. The fiber, that's what they're waiting for, to feed on and reproduce and do all that stuff. Enemas and colonics are very good and disputed methods of colon cleansing. Enemas you can do at home. You just buy a bag, put water in it, lemons, or some tea. And the colonics, you get it done by a professional. Now, if you're doing this colonics, some people do it repetitively, but I would only recommend, if you're starting, once or twice or 3 times max a year, because you don't need much. You mostly need to focus on building your gut microbiome more than anything else. So when you're doing colon cleansing, what is happening? The transverse, in Chinese medicine, we know that the transverse colon, which is parallel to the ground, there's a direct link with your transverse colon and your sinus. So anytime you're congested in your transverse colon, you have too much mucus, it sends it to the sinus. and then you get a runny nose, or you get pressure in the head, you get migraines, headaches. This is where the enema is very beneficial. If you're getting any of that, any sinus problem, any migraines, headaches, pressure in the head, this is usually your transverse colon being backed up. And usually you do an enema and then it goes away, clears the fog. And we talked about that. No more constipation. A lot of people are constipated even if they're having 3 or 2 bowel movements per day. Because constipation is not only when you're straining on the bathroom. If food is not moving in your intestine, in your small intestine, if you're eating too much stuff that's slowing down your digestive process, that's another form of constipation. The kidneys, this is the gateway to your lymphatic system and the gateway to your longevity as well. And I don't know if anybody is comfortable with these images. This is what your urine looks like when it's filtering. So you see all that stuff that is at the bottom? This is what most people are keeping inside of them. This is uric acid, this is mucus, this is dead bacteria, parasite waste from parasites. This is all of this and this sediment and this cloud that you see. So kidney, we call it kidney filtration, is very important to, for example, if you do this and you hear some things in your neck, in the back of your neck, those are the uric acid crystals that when you get a fever, that's what it's trying to melt. It's trying to melt them, but you get pain because it's acid. When acid melts, becomes liquid, and drains down to the kidneys, you're going to get some pain. A lot of people get pain without or with kidney filtration. So during when the body is breaking down the acids to send them to the kidneys, you might get pain as it travels. You might also get pain as they get stuck in the kidney, because a lot of people's kidneys are not filtering. So what do the acids do when they reach the kidney? They burn it. So a lot of people get pain, lower back pain. Any lower back pain that you have, most of the time it's related to your kidneys being overworked. So if it can't do that, guess where it's going to send it? To your skin. So all that stuff, this is what comes out of your acne, your boils, your cysts, eczema, yes? This eczema, when it's under the skin, when it's not able to move out, it burns under, and then you see that rash over the skin. And it should be yellow. Your urine should be yellow, no matter what anybody has told you, because if it's not yellow, all of that is staying inside of you. Especially the first urine in the morning, at least it should be yellow. If you had a glass of fresh orange juice, you just ate some watermelon, you're probably going to get some clear urine right after. But this shouldn't be something that's happening all the time. So the skin, the magic mirror of the internal body. The skin is a reflection of everything that's happening inside of us. It's the largest organ of elimination, we already know. And it is the third organ of every organ you have twice. That is, you have 2 kidneys, so your skin is the third kidney. You have 2 lungs, your skin is the third lung. You have 2 intestines, a small intestine and a large intestine. And the skin is the third intestine as well. Sweating. Sweating is very important to getting your kidney, kidney as well, but to get the toxins out of your skin, from trapped beneath the skin. A very good way to open up your skin, because most of us, just like we have uneliminated feces in the bowels, we also have dead skin, layers of dead skin that are just waiting to be eliminated. If you scratch on your skin and you see some white crumbles, that's dead skin. Dry skin brushing is very good because it scrubs away that dead skin. You're not going to get the results at first. It's going to take time. It's going to take probably some months, because you don't know how much dead skin, layers of it that you have on your skin, and that's what's trapping the sweat and the toxins. And since the kidney is the third lung, it's also trapping gases. Because the lung, when we're breathing in, we're breathing out. When we breathe out, this is a detox. We're eliminating harmful gases. Liver support. The liver is a very important organ because we have a lot of anger in our society, a lot of violence. And this is the organ that stores the anger. It's also the chemical plant of the body. Why do we call it the chemical plant of the body? The liver is doing so much. It's transforming fats into sugar, even proteins into sugar. It's doing so many things. It's doing so many chemical reactions that we gave it the name chemical plant of the body. You can do a liver flush. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about a liver flush before. If not, it's mostly done by ingesting olive oil mixed with Epsom salt and some lemon. My grandmother used to do that to us when we were young. Twice a year. Once before, as summer ends, as school finishes, and another time when we have to go to school. So as we're working on the liver, you're taking the bitter. Bitter taste is the only taste that can stimulate your liver. And no wonder why we have a big liver problem in Western countries. Bitter taste, not only the liver, but also the pancreas. And mostly you can do that with bitter herbs like Cascara sagrada, gentian. There's a lot of great herbs that you can use for the liver. The glands, the body's control center. It's like a government. This is what tells the body what to do. We have the hypothalamus, which is not really a gland, but we consider it part of the endocrine system because it controls the pituitary, which in turn controls everything. So the hypothalamus really controls everything. We have the pituitary. This is where you get your cycles. So any woman that is experiencing missing your periods or not being able to give birth, this is all the pituitary gland. Now we have the thyroid. This is where your metabolism occurs. This is your sweat, your ability to sweat, your ability for your body to do all the processes that it needs to maintain itself. The parathyroid is a very important one because this is where your calcium gets controlled. If you have a parathyroid weakness, you're not utilizing your calcium, and that can lead to bone loss, hair thinning. Calcium is the main structural atom of the body. That's what maintains structure. That's what gives your hair its structure. That's what gives the skin. If your skin has no calcium, it's sagging. Your colon is sagging. Your veins have varicose. You have varicose and spider veins. Hemorrhoids and all that stuff is gums. Your gums are receding. Your enamel is eroding. Now we have the pancreas, which is the main digestive organ, but also this is where you produce your insulin and your glucagons. The thymus is part of the lymphatic system because it controls, it produces immune cells, a lot of the body's immune cells. And recently they discovered that the thymus also produces growth hormones, just like the pituitary. The pituitary, usually people that are short is a pituitary problem, because this is where your growth hormones are secreted, and to an extent in the thymus. Now we have the adrenals. This is where most people are down because we use so many stimulants like coffee, we smoke cigarettes, we smoke marijuana, we drink alcohol, and all of this damages the adrenal glands. This is where our adrenaline gets produced. This is also what controls our sugar metabolism. So if you know somebody that's type 2 diabetic, usually it's an adrenal gland problem, because if somebody is type 1 diabetic, we put them on fruit and they no longer have to use their insulin. Because this is simply because insulin, fructose, we're going to get into this. Fructose is the only type of sugar that the body doesn't produce insulin to get it into the cell. Because this is what we were designed to eat, the fruits. We're going to get into this. Glands are also, they control our emotions to a certain extent, especially the triad, thyroid, parathyroid. If you're not producing and utilizing calcium, you're likely to get depressed. Pineal and pituitary, when this is down, you feel bad about yourself because you're out of rhythm, because this controls your cycles, your sleep cycles, your menstrual cycles, your ability to give birth or not. So if all of these areas are not functioning properly, you're going to feel bad about yourself. Adrenals, they are the batteries. It's like your AAA batteries, 2 of them over your kidneys. And this is where our energy gets produced. So anyone that has problem waking up in the morning, anyone that is like that all the time, can't raise their arm, this is lack of neurotransmitters. This is what gets the body dynamic. Why is it so important to detox? Toxins are found in food, water, air, especially the AC. Unfortunately, my dream would be to have this talk outside, but we can't for professional reasons. Cosmetics. There are a lot of ladies that are making more health conscious cosmetic products with natural ingredients. House cleaning products. This is very damaging. This is anywhere from your detergents, your air fresheners. A lot of people, everything that you use for laundry, the dishwashing soap, all that stuff has they're filled with neurotoxins. And a lot of people that have allergies, they can't. I know that I have this client that I'm working on. She has allergies and she can't stay, like, if I don't wear perfume, but if somebody has, it doesn't mean I don't wear stuff that smells good. I use my essential oils. So if she gets near somebody that's wearing perfume, she gets red. Her face gets red and she starts coughing, because those are toxins. They smell good, but they're foreign to the body. And the smells that they're using, the fragrances, are not natural. They're usually made in a lab. So cookware. If you're using aluminum stuff, when you're heating it, some of it eventually gets in the food, and you're ingesting that. And Aluminum is linked to Alzheimer's. Plastics, the water bottles, when they stay too long, especially exposed to the sun, it starts to decompose into the water, and we're drinking that. There was a study that they did on a group of women, and they found so many plastic in them, in their blood, in their lymphatic system. Toxic thoughts. This can also create acidosis in the body. This puts us on the acidic side of nature. We're doing this to prevent chronic disease. We're strengthening the immune system because we're resetting it. We're having better bowel movements. We're reducing emotional eating. This is a very important point. And this is where the powers that be, they play with us, with the emotional eating. Because what do we eat usually when we're not at our best emotionally? When we're sad, depressed, sweet stuff. And that makes sense because sugar, well, fruit sugar is what the body was designed to eat in the first place. So it makes sense to substitute a sense of a fake sense of well-being with these sweet foods. And there's also a study that I was reading last week where people are more likely, like people that have problems connecting with others, they're more likely to buy foods with an image on it, like KFC. Or anything else, Frosted Flakes, because that's what they're lacking. They're lacking that human relation. And we with the excess, I'm not going to say it's bad, excess use of social media and electronics and all that stuff, that just disconnected us. Anti-aging, better skin glow. This is what a detox can do for you because you're removing free radicals in the body, mental, emotional clarity, releasing suppressed emotion. This is when we talk about the healing crisis. As you're detoxing, this is going to come out. If you have some anger in your liver, you do a detox, it's going to come out. You have some fear in your kidneys, and the kidney is doing some work to detox itself, it's going to come out. And we have to express it, not suppress it, because it's just going to keep being a cycle. You're going to keep coming back to it. This is going to heighten your spiritual experience. You're going to have vivid dreams. You're going to become more intuitive because the body gets cleaner. So you're a better vessel for spirit to permeate. It will also seep into other aspects of your life once you get into detox. You're going to get into other stuff. You're going to get into buying local food, organic, because you're going to meet other people. You're going to meet other people. You're going to want to get away from, or not get away completely. It doesn't have to be get away completely, but you're going to want to, naturally, you're going to want to avoid going to clubs every weekend and intoxicating yourself. All these habits, you're gonna work on self-growth. Detox is one of the best ways to bring in self and spiritual growth. You're gonna get into making your own homemade product because you don't want to be working on getting those toxins out, and then you go brush your teeth and you're getting another dose of toxins. So you're going to get into making your own homemade remineralizing toothpaste, your own deodorant, and all that stuff. Filters for air and water. You're going to get interested into all that stuff. But don't become crazy about it. Don't become anal about it. So we move our lymph and open our kidneys. That's what we do during a detox. We already know about colon cleansing and deep breathing. But we have to move the lymph and open the kidneys. How do we do that? Exercise outside, not inside the gym. Because you need exposure to the fresh air, the sunlight's exposure. You need all of that. This is how the body was designed to move. Not because the AC has so many chemicals in it that you're probably not doing much when you're working out. The heart moves the blood, the muscles are what move the lymph. So walking, you ever wondered why people in so-called third world countries, they live so long? They take long walks. I remember back home, every morning I would watch those merchants. Man, they would walk miles, just walking with those heavy stuff on their head, and they're balanced. They're walking and they're very balanced with heavy stuff, fruits in their head, vegetables, all that, and they're walking long distances. So this is more important than running. If you're walking long distance, this is 10 times more beneficial than running, because by running you're creating more acidosis. You're creating lactic acid, which most of us cannot eliminate it because our kidneys are shut down. So maybe the best route for us is light exercise like yoga, walking long distance, power walks. Sunshine without commercial sunscreens. This is now being linked to skin cancer because this is clogging your skin. This as well, sunglasses, because when you're out in the sun and you have something tricking your brain that it's not sunny outside, you're not producing the melanin that you need for your body to protect itself. Because the sun is good, but the sun is still, if we go back to acid alkaline, which side would you put the sun on? Hot sun. Yes, the sun, because we know there's the law of polarity. We know the sun god and the moon goddess. So the sun is the acidic, the destructive force of nature. This is what can burn. This is the fire. The moon is the more healing, is also associated with water, because we see the water in our bodies and in the ocean rise when we have a full moon. When there's a full moon, certain places in the, depending on where it is in the hemisphere around the globe, or flat earth, like some people like to call it. So we already talked about that. Dry skin brushing, asking your massage therapist if they can do a lymphatic drainage for you. Inversions, there's a lot of yoga poses to do that. Headstands. Hot and cold showers alternating. This stimulates lymphatic flow. Cold air. We talked about the sun being alkaline, but cold air, acidic, cold air is very alkalizing. That's why when you're in, for example, you go to New York during the winter, you get a cold because this stimulates lymph flow. It's not, you didn't catch a cold. You didn't catch a bug or a microbe. This is not what is producing your cold. This is simply the alkalizing force of the cold air constricting your muscles, and your body wants to expel that mucus. Eating mainly fruits, because fruits are cooling foods. Especially if you live in the tropics, there's no reason not to eat mainly this, because we have this abundantly. I get calls from clients all the time from Europe, and they're telling me how they're jealous of me drinking my coconut water. So we should enjoy, be grateful for these things that we have here that are available for our healing. Eating seasonally, if in the tropics, because if you're in Canada, Alaska, there's no season. Fish is not a seasonal food. Meat is not a seasonal food. Dairy could be, because the cow, in a natural environment, the cow will only be pregnant certain times. Now we have the luxury of keeping the cows pregnant for long periods of time and getting milk all the time. Back in the days, our ancestors, they weren't used to that. We would only drink cow's milk when the cow is pregnant. Herbs. There are many herbs for your lymphatic system and your kidneys. This is because the herbs have the ability to astringe or contract your muscles so that you can expel that. Good herbs for your lymph are stuff like plantain, which is considered a weed. Not plantain plátanos, fried plátanos, no. Plantain, the herb. Also podarco, which is a Brazilian tree bark that they use for poisons. Any lymphatic herb is also good for poisons, because we talked about this. The lymphatic system takes care of toxins. Poisons or toxins. So it would make sense that the natives and the ancient people of this planet would use lymphatic herbs to remove poisons from the blood, from the lymphatic system. Intermittent dry fasting. Well, for the kidneys, good herbs are stuff like corn silk, couch grass, and those are only historical uses of herbs. This is not a prescription to you. This is not a medical statement. Those are only historical uses of herbs. Intermittent dry fasting, 16 hours maximum, is what personally I recommend, because if you're not used to that, you can have nightmares. You can create a nightmare for yourself.
Do you have water during that time?
Dry fasting, no.
No water.
No water. Dry fasting is abstaining from all foods. Solid food. 16 hours is not a lot. If you stop eating at 8 p.m., you stop eating till noon the next day, it's easy. And your body can take it. But we have all these propaganda about breakfast and all that stuff. Actually, breakfast means breaking the fast. And the body has they call it a biorhythm or circadian rhythm, which governs what the body should be doing at different times of the day. So in the morning, the body's energy is away from digestion. It's more towards making your skin hydrated, getting your brain to wake up. So in the morning, up until noon is not the best time to be consuming heavy foods. You can have your fruits, you can have your fruit juices, your smoothies, but your dense meals are not, the morning is not the best time to have them. 36 hours. You have to do this under supervision of some sort, because this is very risky if you're not experienced. So the detox pyramid, what do we see here? At the top, we have dry fasting. At the bottom, this is the first step that you take. You remove all processed packaged oils and alcohol from your diet. This is how you start if you're there. Some people are already there. Some people are already there. So we meet you everywhere you are. Everywhere you are, we meet you, and we manage you up and down the pyramid to either accelerate or slow down your detox. Removing dairy, sugars, and eggs. Next up, we have removing all animal products. 100 plant-based diet, and this is really when you start. This is when you start to detox mildly. It's a mild detox when you're plant-based. It's not as powerful as, let's say, if you're eating just one fruit. If you're eating just one fruit like watermelon for 10 days, this is very accelerated detox. And if you're drinking watermelon juice for 10 days, this is another step above. If you're water fasting, this used to be the top. In the days of the prophets, Muhammad, Jesus Christ, Moses, this used to be at the top of the pyramid. But Jesus did that for 40 days. And you're not ingesting any food there, so the body, it's easy for the body to leave, or one of the bodies, because we have many bodies. We have the emotional body, we have the spiritual body, we have the mental body. It's easy for one of them to leave during these. That's why it's not advised to do for long periods of times, because you can start seeming delusional. But if you're under supervision, it's fine. And this is why we have detox specialists to help people, supervise them through those health experiences. So fasting is nature's oldest way of healing itself. Any animal in the wild does it. Your dog, when it's sick, it stops eating and retreats from everyone. It puts himself in a corner for 3 days. How many, depending on how deep what they're dealing with is, that's how long that they will take for their body to heal. Sometimes it takes, for us humans, it takes time away from family, friends, because most of the time our family and friends do not understand what we're trying to do. So they'll try to bring you back into this world that they are locked in themselves. So what does fasting do to the body? It allows your digestive system to rest completely. When the digestive system is not working, that you get so much energy left for other processes of the body, especially healing. The digestive system uses about 50 to 65% of your whole day's energy. That's most of your day's energy is going towards processing food. So when you're not processing food, all that energy, where is it going, in your opinion? We're going to get into that in the next slide. This is how your body regenerates damaged cells, tissues, organs, and glands, resets the body system, clear mental fogs, high energy levels, not in the first days. In the first 3 days, you might feel, a little down, because this is going to start to expose weaknesses in the body when you're not eating solid foods or cooked foods. And there's different fasts that you can do. You don't have to do a juice fast or a dry fast. You can do a 10-day fruit fast. You can mix. One day you have this fruit, the other day you have that fruit. But we show you the food pyramid, and I'm gonna pass this this signing sheet so that you guys can write your email, and I will send you guys some of these documents so you can have. So we have the mono fruit fast, lemonade fast, mono juice, water fast, dry fast. And you can, usually I have people progress in this order. So if you're really new to this, 3 days, and then we stop. We can do 4 days, 7 days next time, and then we keep going. We already talked about long-term fasts needing to be supervised. Now we're gonna get into a little bit of environmental science. This is my domain in school. So how is energy distributed in a food chain? And this is going to lead up to something, because we're going to go into what diet gives us the most energy and which diet is designed for us. So this is where all the energy comes from the sun, and then the food chain at the bottom we have the plants, and then the secondary, those are the herbivores which eat the plants, and then you have carnivores or omnivores which eat everything below them. So we have more energy at the bottom of the food chain. That means in the plant kingdom. In the plant kingdom, that's where all of the sun's energy is. Nothing lost. Once the herbivore eats the plant, it loses, it had 1,000, it loses 990. So you're only left with 10 joules of energy when you're eating, let's say, a steak or some goat meat or whatever it is. You're getting 10%, only 10% of that, or less than 10%. Next up, the carnivores, you lose 9 joules. And you're only left with 1. So this is why you see a lot of ancient cultures, they don't really eat animals that eat other animals. Because they're looking, this is what we're always looking for. We're always looking for energy. This is what we're not looking for nutrition. To a certain extent we are. And you see that even ancient people that ate the herbivores, they would go for certain organs, like the liver, the glands, and all that stuff. They would use the bones, the antlers. So here we have another energy pyramid. Now, how do toxins move in the energy? Remember back, the more you go up, the less energy. Now, the more you go up, the more toxins. So one thing is dioxin. A lot of people talk about dioxin, which is a byproduct of industrial pollution. So this dioxin is in the air when it rains, gets into the ground, and eventually gets into the plants. But in the plants, it's only about less than 1%. But the cow spends all day eating plants. So the cow, this is a process called bioaccumulation, biomagnification, or bioaccumulation. The cows spend the whole day eating plants, so they're eating that toxin, and it is becoming more concentrated in them. And then we go and eat them. And then here we see the baby is gonna get the breast milk from the mother, and then he gets it. And then we wonder why the babies have so many allergies, even to their own mother's milk. But they're not really allergic to the milk. They're allergic to the toxins present in the milk, because whatever you're eating, whatever you're drinking, whatever you're putting on your skin, is going to the baby, if it's inside of you or if it's feeding from your breast. Mercury is the same thing in the fish. A lot of people think fish is healthier. No. Mercury is a big thing in the ocean. And this is a byproduct of the agro industry. So, what does our physiology say about the foods that we should be eating? Here we see the colon and the intestine of a man, intestine of a tiger. Why is the intestine of the tiger shorter? The intestine of the tiger is shorter because the meat that it's going to eat cannot stay in the body for too long. If it stays for too long, it's going to start fermenting, putrefying, and decaying, creating parasites, fungus, candida, all that stuff. So that's why it's designed by the ultimate intelligence with a small colon and stomach and GI tract in general, so that this food that they're eating pass through them rapidly. Humans, on the other hand, we have a lot of friends in there that are waiting for food. Good friends. And food has to stay a little longer inside of us because humans have the highest concentration of gut microbiome compared to most other animals, humans and higher apes. So why, when we consume meat, what happens? What is supposed to happen here doesn't happen here because it takes longer. Our intestine is 25 times our height. This is only about 2 times. So it exits quick. This, it takes days. And you see what happens if you put some meat on the counter for just a few hours in the AC. In the AC at 60 degrees. It starts to decay. So imagine inside the body where the temperatures reach the vicinities of 100 degrees. So if even if you're detoxing, you can see this. You're eating fruits, and then you're eating fruits for a few days, you're detoxing. And then you eat a salad, the detox stops, or it slows down, because this takes a lot of energy, and we have not been designed to eat mainly this. Even though we can eat vegetables, but this is not the main part of our diet. Omnivore, we're not omnivores because we don't look like this. We don't look like this. We don't look like hogs, pigs. We don't look like that. Also, there's a lot of physiological differences, especially in the stomach acids. There's different stomach acids for different categories. We see the frugivore here, just like chimpanzees and monkeys. We have the same digestive system as them. So what are they eating? They're eating mainly fruits, some leafy greens, some nuts, some seeds, some herbs, some barks from some trees, some tender roots like turmeric. You see some gorillas chewing on some turmeric or some ginger. And the gorilla is strong. It's very strong. Would a lion mess with a gorilla? I don't think so. Especially a silverback. You don't mess with that. And they're eating only fruit. I say only fruit because that's what they say. They say it's only fruit. It's just a piece of fruit. That's dessert. Right? So that's not what we see here. This is where we get most of our energy from, because the body is always looking for. I told you guys to put your phone down, and now I have my phone. Sorry about that. So we were designed to get most of our nutrition and energy from fruits. What does mother's milk have to tell us about our diet? You see, cow's milk. Well, I have the actual numbers here, because this is just pasteurized cow milk. Now we have whole cow's milk. And why I have this chart is to help you see why cows go for high protein. They eat a lot of grass because that's what their mother's milk told them to. How is that different from mother's milk? Mother's milk is a high sugar, low fat and protein liquid. So this is the blueprint for, and it's just like the monkey. Carbohydrate, 7%. Fat, low fat. But we require some fat for proper brain and nerve function, especially with the formation of our myelin sheets that protect the nerve. We need some fat, some nuts, like 10% of our diet could be nuts, seeds, soaked. They have to be soaked because if they're not soaked, you're getting a lot of phytic acid. Phytic acid binds with minerals in the body and prevents us from utilizing them properly. So that's why you want to soak. And there are, if you have your email, I'll put a guideline. There's certain hours that every nut has to be soaked for. And dehydrated. Hopefully you get a dehydrator. So why fruits for detoxifications? Fruits are we talked about energy. Fruits are the only solid food that allow for the body the GI tract to rest without using most of its energy. So we know that digestion is 60 or 65% at most. The brain, 25 to 35. And we only have 10 to 15%. That's what we do everything with. That's what we go to school with. That's what we wake up from our bed with. That's what we do run, walk, exercise. This only with the 10%. Imagine if, I don't know, maybe something happens in our evolution in the future where more people start realizing why fruits, that we use less of this, more of this, and more of that. We'll be like smart gorillas. Gorillas with a highly developed consciousness. Ever wondered why Jesus used more about the average human uses less than 10% of his brain, but prodigies, they call them child prodigies, like Jesus Christ. There's a lot of people that could do amazing things, like move objects without touching them. Those people have high ability to use their brain's energy. And Jesus Christ himself, if you look into, there's a book called The Essenes, and this documents Christ going through, it's like a society where you go and learn about holistic living, and they teach you about detoxification, they teach you about fasting, they teach you about the importance of a plant-based diet. His mother was also part of the Essene, and that's why they call Jesus Christ's birth the Immaculate Conception, because immaculate means clean. So she gave a clean birth without any obstruction, without any acidity, because she knew about this already. They've been known about this. So now we're going to go into angstroms. Angstrom is a measurement of energy that I think it was in Russia that they discovered this with Kirlian photography, where they could photograph certain items and tell a lot about the energetic field. So fruits have about 10,000 to 12,000 angstroms. Veggies, 8,000. Cooked veggies, 3,000. Pasteurized milk, 2,000. Cooked animal flesh, 0. Average healthy person has an angstrom of 6,500. A cancer patient generally vibrates lower at 3,000 to 4,875 angstroms. So humans are frugivores just like the higher apes, because we have the same digestive system as them. We are tropical beings. We evolved in the tropics. this also goes into Artie. I don't know if you guys heard about Artie. Artie is the new Lucy. You knew about Lucy. Lucy was the oldest human ever discovered, bipedal human to have walked the earth. Now Artie has been found in Ethiopia. And scientists started to ask themselves, and why Ethiopia? Because the time is twice more. So it's further back. And scientists ask themselves, why Ethiopia? When they do the research, Ethiopia back in the day, because now it's a desert. If you look at Ethiopia, it's a desert. But back in the days, it was a tropical rainforest. And this is where we thrive. We thrive in the tropics, where we have abundant sun and alkaline foods to balance it. Because the sun is the acidic force, and the alkaline foods are the balancing component to the acidity of the sun. That's why if you go on a high raw food diet, I've experienced this, you can stay 12 hours in the sun and not burn. So with more, when we're eating like this, we get more energy to think, to feel, to be in tune with nature, with each other, and to love, to have compassion. Not the love that wants to control, but the love that wants to set free. Because most of us, when we think of love, we're thinking about controlling each other. That's what we're thinking about. Because that's how we've been raised. You know, our parents, and they do this because they love us. Because that's, throughout the years, throughout the ages, that's the cycle that's been repeating itself. That's how we love. But if you look way back, the ancients used to always let the young ones have their experience. Go out in the woods, get your bones broken so they can rebuild themselves, fall, get burned, because that's how we learn. That's how we learn to avoid bad situations, but that's also how we build character. Everything is energy. I'm going to go into this Emoto. I don't know if you guys heard about Dr. Emoto. He's a Japanese, I believe, researcher, and he did studies on water, and he found that water can hold emotions, and water is intelligent. He had a child project emotions to 2 different bowls of rice, 2 different containers. One where she was thinking love, positive energies every day. She was presenting those affirmations to it. And to the other one, it was hate, negativity. And the one that she was presenting love to every day did not ferment. The other one became black. And I should have put a picture to show you guys. So now we're gonna get into proper food combination, because this is where a lot of people get their stomach upset problems. Because if you're not combining your food properly, you're gonna get gas, you're gonna get bloated, you're gonna feel bad about yourself. So we only mix where the circles touch directly. So we have acidic fruits, subacid, sweet fruits. Examples of sweet fruits are banana, figs, dates, persimmon. I had some this morning. It's very sweet, very good. From Ocala, local. Subacid fruits are apples, grapes, cherries, pears. And the acid fruits are most of the citrus family. So grapefruit, limes, lemons, orange, tangerines, kiwis. And then we have a protein starches, low starch. So we only mix subacid fruits with either sweet fruits or acidic fruits. We cannot mix acid. It won't taste good. Orange with banana? I don't think so. Lime with banana? I don't think it'll taste good. And your body's going to tell you right away, as soon as you ingest it, you're going to get gas, bloating. So we just don't do that. And the melons, you eat them alone. Melons are fruits like papaya, watermelon, honeydew. Those you eat them alone because they have a very specific pH that they require to be digested. This is a common mistake that people make. They have the fruits or sweets for dessert. This is a very big mistake because what happens when you eat all this dense food and it doesn't digest as fast as the sugar. So you add the sugar on top of it, and the sugar is something that's supposed to go through the body very quickly. So when we do that first, we get fermentation. You eat your salad first. There's a story of a guy had a salad and a watermelon. He asked his wife to cut him a piece of watermelon, and he went out. He never came back. And when his wife called the police office, she said that her husband is missing, that she hasn't seen him since last night. They said, oh yeah, we have him here for driving drunk. But what happened? His blood alcohol raised because fermentation occurred. His blood sugar raised. His blood pressure raised. And that caused him to seem like he was drunk. But eventually he won that case because they were able to find that this is what happened. So demystifying the fear of fruit sugar. We should not be afraid of this. This is now I see more information on the internet about how fruit is bad for us. There's a lot of articles. The only thing is if you're type 2 diabetic and you eat fruit, you get a blood sugar spike. This is not the fruit. It's your adrenals that are down because adrenals are controlling blood, not blood, but sugar metabolism. So when we get clients that have type 2 diabetes, we always work on getting their adrenals to function better. So we might do a lot of green juice with them, some vegetables, some subacid fruits like the grapes, berries, melons. So fructose, this is a new study. Fructose does not require insulin to get into the cell. This is very important, especially for people with type 1 diabetes that are insulin dependent. If we do this all the time at the clinic, all the time, we have type 1 diabetics, we put them on fruit, and they have to reduce their insulin. They have to monitor, they have to lower it until they no longer need it. But if you've been on insulin for a long time, there's a law of efficiency. If you're feeding, for example, if you have a child, you never let them go out. You're always extra protective with them. You give them everything. When they grow up, they're more likely they won't be able to sustain themselves. So this is what happens with your pancreas. You feed it, you give it insulin, which is supposed to produce. So it loses the ability over time to lose it. So when we get people that have been on insulin for a long time, it's really hard to get their pancreas to start working again. But it is possible. Everything is possible under the sun. We've done it many times. We already did that. Yeah, fruits are also easy on the liver because the liver to a certain extent controls the sugar metabolism with transforming proteins and fats into sugars, sugar into fat. Those are some images of Kirlian photography that we were talking about earlier. Cooked tomato, you see the energetic field around it. A raw tomato. Broccoli, slice of meat, an apple. This is probably cooked. This is probably raw meat or lightly cooked meat. Filet mignon. So what does the body do with all that extra energy that it just received? When we're eating fruits, we've been detoxing. You think you're going to get all that energy and become a gorilla? No. First, the body is always trying to maintain homeostasis. So once it gets that energy, it's automatic for the body to try to heal itself, to try to remove toxins and get those blockages out of the way before we can enjoy really high levels of energy. So usually when you're doing a detox, the person feels really tired because, again, we're eating foods that are damaging our adrenals. Animal protein damage your adrenals, especially nowadays, because if you go to a slaughterhouse, you see what I'm trying to explain. The animals are in fear, constant fear in the slaughterhouse. They see what's happening to their friends. They see what's happening, so they're always scared. And what does fear produce? You know what hormone it produces? That? Adrenaline. Epinephrine. So their muscles, their meat is loaded with adrenaline. And we're eating that, and that's giving us the impression that meat has energy, but it's the adrenaline that we're getting. And remember we were talking about insulin with the pancreas? So you feed adrenaline to the adrenals, the same thing happens. It loses the ability to produce it naturally. The dreaded healing crisis. This is also called Herxheimer's reaction. This is when you're detoxing and the body has come to a point where it's ready to expel those toxins. That's when you should be happy. That's also what makes a lot of people quit a vegan or fruitarian lifestyle, because they don't understand what's happening. You were having beautiful skin, and then 3 months after, you're getting acne popping all over because the body is digging deeper. In the first few days, first few months, you're getting rid of topical stuff that's on the surface, but we also have interstitial floods. Interstitial floods is the lymphatic system that's in between the cells that's cleaning them. So at first, you're digging into the lymphatic vessels to clean those out, but the further you go, you're going to go into the cellular structure and take out toxins, because the cells can become toxic. This is what causes a cell to become cancerous. If it sits in this acidic environment for too long, it's going to mutate. We see this with frogs in the rivers. There was a study where they looked at frogs having extra legs, extra arms. And this is all because over generations, they've been in this acidic environment, causing them to mutate. So same thing happens to the cells in the body. So yeah, when you have a healing crisis, anything like a cold flu, rash, shooting pain, tumor growth. You can get a tumor growth on a detox. Why is that? Because it was inside of you. It's trying to come out. It's going to try to come out through the skin. We've had that many times at the clinic. People coming to Dr. Morse or his other specialists with tumors growing on their skin. They don't understand. But when they continue, it just falls out. Because remember the Hering's law of cure that we talked about. Healing occurs from top down, from inside out. So it's taking things from inside and bringing them outside. But what about proteins? But what about fiber? Most Westerners are already eating too much protein in their diet, and that's causing all sorts of colon problems, kidney problems. There's nothing that will damage your kidneys more and your colons than a high protein diet. Most people are lacking fiber. That's why we have so much constipation, especially in the elderlies. The more you get older, your metabolism gets slower. So you need this fiber that you've been missing to come and reset your bowel movement. The body does not need protein. Anybody disagree? I'm here. So the body needs amino acids. This is what makes a protein complete. Think of it as a house. The protein is the house already built. The amino acids are the building blocks that we use to create the protein. So what happens when we ingest protein? Protein is a nitrogen-rich compound. Nitrogen is a very acidic chemical. It's on the in the acid alkaline spectrum, it's acidic. So when we're ingesting proteins, it has to break it down into amino acids and then build it back up into proteins. So why not just take that? Not only that, protein, the byproducts of protein metabolism is uric acid, nitrous oxide, all these chemicals that they're organic, they are, but they're very taxing to the body. And they get stored in our joints, our brain, our liver, and we do not want that. So too much energy to break down into amino acids and then build them back up into proteins again. Animal proteins are linked to shorter lifespans. We have the, I put into it, but it's really Inuit, the Eskimo and Maasai, from the Maasai tribe from Africa. They say that they have very low cardiovascular illnesses, but they have very short lifespan. Eskimos don't live more than 45 years. And they eat, what do they eat all the time? Fish, all the time. So high protein is linked to colon cancer, damaged liver, weak pancreas, and kidney failure. Why? Protein is like a gluey substance. So when we ingested, like especially stuff like gluten and dairy protein, when they get into the body, they become glue and they stick to the walls of our colon, and this is what gives rise to mucoid plaque. Proteins are not fuel. They can lead to adrenal failure because of what we talked about earlier. Especially nowadays with our food production system. Back in the days, the ancients, they had a certain way that they would kill the animal before it being ingested. There was rituals, and some cultures don't even let the animal see the knife that's gonna slit their throat. So it was a whole ritualistic thing. Now we have an industry that's doing this every second, and they're put in concentration CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations, and they see each other suffer. They see each other die. So this is adrenaline rush all the time. Anger is linked to high animal protein diets. When you look at back in medieval times, what do you see the nobles when they do a drawing of them? What do you see them eating all the time? Some meat. And yeah, done with that. So the sad truth about milk and dairy products. So baby cows, baby cows grow 30 to 500 pounds in a year. Is that what you want for your baby? Because that milk was designed for that baby cow to grow 300 pounds, 500 pounds in a year. Mother's milk is designed to get energy to your brain and develop proper brain functioning. The milk itself is not doing much for your growth. It's more for your brain. Your mother's milk is more for your brain, and it also gives you your first gut microbiome. That's where you get it. But what do doctors do? They give you that vaccine. That's going to kill that gut microbiome. And some of these bacteria that you get from your mother, you can't get them easily. It's not easy to get them back. So cow's milk is for baby cows. Goat milk is for baby goat. Baby humans drink their mother's breast milk. Like that. So between the ages of 2 and 3, humans, most humans, because we do have a gene that's adapted to high dairy intake. Because when we started herding, we became herders, and these societies became more dependent on milk for, especially when you're in harsh climates, like even in Africa, it's not only tropical. You have not desert. You have deserts, and you get droughts. Even in the most abundant ecosystem, you get droughts. So what do we do to what have we done as evolutionary practices to cope with that? We use animal protein, we use milk. So when there's no fruit available, when there's no vegetables, that's what we use. I'm going to take a break real quick because I have to give my friend back his... Really?
That's run on battery. Are you still good?
Still good?
Keep going.
Really? Sure? Okay. So, I'm back. So, dairy is known as the most mucus-forming food because it's foreign to the body, especially after you lose the ability to digest it. Not only you lose the ability to digest it, and you're drinking the milk from another species. So that makes it even more acidic, thus mucus forming. And what usually gets affected first is the thyroid and the parathyroid because it's in the throat. You form mucus there and it coats around the thyroid, parathyroid. It can create hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, depending on the level of acidity that you're dealing with. The parathyroid that's very important because the parathyroid controls calcium, utilization, absorption, assimilation. So if we're drinking that milk thinking that it brings in calcium, but it damages your parathyroid, which controls your calcium utilization. And that's why in the countries where they consume the most dairy, they have the highest rates of osteoporosis, arthritis, and all that stuff. Well, we have it here. Yeah, highest bone fractures. Also, which PC is that? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna have to do this quick because they don't have the charger for this. Strong link between dairy and respiratory issues, especially asthma. And this was true for me. I had asphyxic asthma, but don't worry, I took care of it. Took good care of it. The type of asthma that I had, I would need, every time I have an attack, I would need some albuterol or even sometime hospitalization. This is because the mucus that we get from throat area, it eventually lodges itself in the lungs, especially the lower lobes where the least air gets into. And then it starts to harden, it calcifies, and it burns. So constipation, your worst nightmare. You don't want to be like that. Trust me. So your number of bowel movements per day should equal the number of meals that you've had that day. You had 2 meals, 2 BMs. You had 3 meals, 3 BMs. It doesn't have to always be 3 bowel movements. So if you're eating 3 times a day and you're going to the bathroom every other day, that's very bad. Because all that stuff is staying inside of you and you're not eliminating it. This is the 2 types of constipation that we talked about earlier. Peristaltic constipation, when you're not having that movement of the intestines. This is usually due to low adrenal function and your gut microbiome. Spastic colon. Spastic colon, this is what a spastic colon looks like. And this drawing is from a study that they did in Johns Hopkins University, and Dr. Bernard Jensen, who was one of the country's pioneers in colon health. He was able to participate in the dissection of many colons, and the only healthy colon that they saw was, I think, a 4-month-old baby. Almost everybody was like this. And this is what high protein diets does to us. So you see here, inside the colon, it's so irritated that it has just this little bit of passage for stool to go through. Here it's even worse. Here the colon lost its shape. Now this is the ileocecal valve, and look at it here. Also not listed is I think diverticula. A lot of people have diverticula. This is the medical term for pockets in the bowel. So if you're not moving, if you're constipated and you're not moving, your bowels are not moving, it tends to pocket itself somewhere in your colon. So it's gonna hide somewhere until it can leave. This usually gives rise to a balloon colon, like some people have hernias, or diverticula. Also prolapse transverse colons. We see that a lot, where the transverse colon just drops and it puts pressure on the stomach, the kidneys, the adrenals, causing further problem. So, squatting, the age-old technique for proper bowel movement. This is how our ancestors used to go number 2. Because you see what happens when you're sitting. This is the puborectalis muscle. When you're sitting, you don't get the perfect angle, and it's pulling on the canal. What that does is you get a partial elimination. You're not eliminating everything. So you get stuff inside, and that's contributing even more to your balloon colon or your diverticula. And this is allowing food to ferment and putrefy even more inside of you. This is why we recommend colon cleansing. Squatting. When you're squatting, the angle is is more suitable for this to happen. So it relaxes the puborectalis muscle and it keeps them from straining on the canal. The truth about stimulants, supplements, antibiotics, and vaccines. This is where people get killed. Many naturopaths, nutritionists have lost their lives just talking about that. In the state of Florida only, I think it was summer of 2015, there was 8 naturopaths that were found dead. And what they had in common was this. They were telling mothers to stop vaccinate your children because there's a new study that came out that's linking vaccines to seizures, ADHD, ADD, epilepsy, allergies, children that have allergies. Because what vaccines are doing is they're why are we getting sick? So from all that we learn, why do we get sick? We get sick because the body's trying to eliminate something. So when we have children that are sick at birth, the body's trying to eliminate something. You put the vaccine and it stops, it suppresses that healing from happening. So and not only that, the children are connected to their mother's lymphatic system, circulatory system. So the blood in the lymph of your mother is what you inherited. We know this for sure now. If your mother had a toxic lymphatic system, she passes it down to you. So we do pay for the mistakes of our ancestors, of our forefathers. Any drug that your mother took, and this, we're going to get into the eyes, where the eyes document all of this, and this is so beautiful. This is my passion. So stimulants are coffee, cacao, I did put it, alcohol, recreational drugs, black and green tea, whole foods, supplements versus isolates. We talked about that in the beginning. Now antibiotics. What antibiotics do is they suppress your immune system. They kill your beneficial bacteria, and they stop the healing from happening, the healing process from happening in the body. The vaccines, we just talked about that. They contain a lot of inorganic minerals, mercury, lead, sulfur. Even though they reduce them, this is the thing about the FDA. The FDA is always quick to tell us how little of these, of how little of a toxin that is okay for us. Where really we shouldn't be having to deal with toxins at all. But they tell you this little amount is okay. You can have that little bit of poison. So yeah, the body treats them as neurotoxin. They get stored, they destroy the myelin sheets, and some of them end up getting attached to the end of the nerves, and this is where you get epilepsy, because the nerves, they can't communicate anymore. So the body goes into spasms. So do you guys familiar with Louis Pasteur? Pasteur is the man who invented the pasteurization technique, and this gave birth to our milk drinking industry. Vaccines as well. This is where it all, vaccines, antibiotics. This is the man. This is the man. But this is the man's confession before he died. And he talks about Bernard here. Bernard was a contemporary of his that was more for the cellular theory. Louis Pasteur developed the germ theory, which tells us that disease are caused by germs. where actually you need germs. What are bacteria? Bacteria in your gut, they're germs. You need them. But modern medicine is quick to kill them. That's what they went. Almost every disease could be linked to some type of foreign entity attacking you. Almost every one of them. So Bernard was right. The microbe is nothing. The environment is everything. The environment is also called the terrain. So, for example, if somebody has a parasite infestation, you kill the parasite, you give them some antibiotics to kill the parasites and all the other bacteria that they have inside of them. Do you really take care of the problem? You actually make it worse because you didn't clean the environment. These bacteria, bad bacteria, parasites, they're only here because they find their food. So if we eliminate their food, which are usually processed foods, toxins from inorganic, especially sulfur. Parasites, candida, they love sulfur. That's because sulfur creates like a glue in the stomach, and the glue makes everything stick, so everything starts to decompose. So they just stay there. They love it. If you were a parasite, wouldn't you love that? So this is about the B12 deficiency, in my opinion, which is a myth, because we talked about assimilation, digestion, and all of that stuff. And if you remember anything about our gut microbiome, B12 is not a nutrient. It is a byproduct of bacterial activity. B12 is produced by bacteria decomposing food inside of you. This is where you get most of your B12. So the best source is a healthy intestinal flora. Same for vitamin K. It's produced by this bacterial activity. We already talked about this in the beginning. Cooking animal flesh and dairy, pasteurizing them, destroys 80 to 100% of the B12 because vitamins cannot survive high heat. So they get destroyed when we cook our foods. B12 deficiency is common in both plant-based and non-plant-based. And this is all technology to kill bacteria. And we're eating all of this. So imagine you're eating a fruit that's been sprayed with chemicals. And it's been sprayed so that bacteria doesn't grow on it, so that insects don't come to it. So imagine when you put that food inside of you, what it does to your gut microbiome. There's a study that's been done on Indians living in England and the ones living in India. So they found that the Indians that were living in India, because their food is not sprayed and organic, and they can pick it from the tree and eat it, it has bacteria on it, which they make us so afraid of. We've been raised into this germophobic culture. Hand sanitizer, everything. They put bacterial coating wax on the fruits, even the organic fruits in the supermarket. So that's what they found. They found that the Indians that were living in India didn't have their B12 problems because the ones living in the West, they were not eating the foods. The foods they were coated with bacterial wax, so there's no way that you can get your B12. So this is gut microbiology. This is Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. You know the Kellogg brand? It was two brothers, and one made one route, and the other one made another route. And the other one that made the other route is the one that kept the commercial brand. It was actually invented to detox people. the Kellogg brand, because back in the days they still use grains, stuff like that in a vegetarian diet to put people away from all these processed foods and animal protein. So that's what it was invented for. And then eventually the brother sold out. So healthy colon, 85% good bacteria, 15% coliform or putrefactive bacteria. But what Dr. John Harvey Kellogg found, he was also part of the group that were doing the dissections at John Hopkins. Most colons, or he was involved with these people. Most colons, 15% beneficial bacteria, 85% bad bacteria. That is the inverse of what a healthy colon should be. The Blue Zone study is a very important study that I think everyone should look into. This documents these places where they have the highest concentration of centenarians, people that live to be 100 years or over. And this is what they all have in common. Family values, no smoking, plant-based diets, they're all plant-based. Constant to moderate physical activity all the time. Social engagement, that means they have cultural practices, rituals, they have a spiritual system. Soaking and sprouting their nuts and seeds. They use them, but they soak and sprout them. And they use God's pharmacy, which is the herbs. So the herbs are for the healing of the nations. Herbs go way back. We talked about that in the beginning. So I want to say something to pregnant and breastfeeding mothers, which I probably already talked about in the lecture. They are the main determinants of the baby's health, quality, and longevity, because the baby is attached to the mother's lymphatic system inside the womb and through the breast milk. So everything that you're eating, the baby is eating as well. Drugs from toxins from pharmaceuticals get passed down to the baby. This is a chart of iridology. This is a science that I practice. And this is what I use to monitor my clients' health. And this is how we can tell any marking that we see in certain places is how we can know which organ is functioning and which one isn't. This is another chart. This is an iris. And this is, we see eyes, but we don't have a clue. We don't have a clue what's going on. We just see eyes, we see they're beautiful, we see all the colors. But what do the colors mean? This is a blue eye. Those are drug deposits from a drug that the mother has taken when this person was in the womb. We see an assimilation ring, malabsorption ring, and those are called lacunas. This is areas of weakness in the body, and each of these go over a specific area. For example, here is the kidneys. Here we have the pineal, because this is a left eye. So here we have the pineal and pituitary. This is the classic case of a calcified pineal gland. And the eyes do change colors. We've seen this many times. We've seen people with green. This is a client of mine, 10 months of detox, but she was very strict with herself. She had green eyes when but she was already into healthy living and everything. And 10 months after, she got her blue eyes back, because we're going to get into what the eyes tell us is levels of disease or dis-ease in the body. So we have acute, which is when we see white fibers in a blue eye. The acute stage will turn a blue eye white. The subacute stage will turn a blue eye green, because subacute is yellow on top of blue gives green. The next stage is brown. The chronic stage will turn a blue eye brown. This is what we're looking at here. This is a lady with blue eyes. She was born with blue eyes, but with time, we get toxins, we build mucus, because this is what this tells us. The colors tells us about the mucus and how long it's been sitting in the body. So if it's brown, it's been there for a long time. If it's black, it's been there for too long. And this is where you get degeneration. This is the degenerative stage. So I do offer regenerative detoxification programs consisting of 1 hour initial consultation, iris pictures, iridology analysis. This takes me a little time compared to other iridologists because my readings, they are like 13 pages. You're not just getting some, it's not a basic iridology reading where I'm just telling you what's wrong with you. I'm also going to tell you about your strengths. I'm going to tell you about your emotional body, your spiritual body, because the eye is a blueprint. The eye is a blueprint to what we came here to experience. The eye is the window to the soul. And we don't take that quote lightly. So 1 hour follow-up consultation after I do the reading. Text, email, and full support throughout the whole program. It's 4 weeks, 5 for pregnant and breastfeeding women because they require more help. And it's more money for them because they require more presence as well. You get a personalized meal plan, herbal protocols, and we do some emotional healing work. Those are my prices for FIU staff and professors to show my gratitude to you